because 50-mile radius of an atomic plant, if there's an accident or a terrorist blow, they're all dead. So do you want it in your neighborhood? Yet atomic energy is a solution to our energy problems. Okay? So therefore, and now what happens? Well, let's take something more benign. Windmills. Windmills have been a successful energy source, proved in Holland, proved in Denmark, proved in this country more and more. Okay? Huge windmills, but you know, if every community it goes into, people say, not in my backyard. It's been proposed on the coast of Long Island. And every community has protested. It was proposed off the coast of Cape Cod. And every community protested. Why? Well, it ruins my view. You can't even see it from their homes, but it ruins my view. Not in my backyard is the prevailing theory. There's a selfish interest in not having it by many people. So, yeah, there are solutions, but nobody wants them. I don't know if you read just recently where Willie Nelson, the singer, he was in partnership, and I forget who he was with, another famous person, in taking waste oils from restaurants and making it into gasoline. And he finally sold his car because it started to smell like French fries. Okay? So, yeah, there's a cost, in other words. That's a humorous cost, but there is a lot of people trying to develop things, taking corn and using corn perhaps as processing it in such a way as to develop oil from that. We have corn oil, don't we, for cooking. We have vegetable oils of all kinds. Oil is what it is, and you can do it. Now we have hydrogen cars now, hybrid cars, battery-operated situations. They're all useful, but you have to develop them in such huge quantities because as the world develops, it gobbles things up in a much faster rate. We have to eventually find a source of substitute for that. But that becomes an economic issue, it's a political issue, and obviously in the Middle East it's a religious issue as well. Yes? Yes, sir.
Are you suggesting that our getting into this war with Iraq was based upon our search for freedom, or were there money motivations which would especially attract those who wanted to get the control of the oil deposits in Iraq? We've now lost close to 3,000 young men, and when I look at the list of casualties, I find they're 18 years old, 19, 20, 22, almost all under 30. And why did we get in this war? Because they're a fascist country? Because there's a dictatorship there? Or because there were money motivations and those who were in control to get a hold of all of the fabulous wealth that lies underground in the Middle East?
Well, you very ardent Democrats here obviously would all agree with you. I'm neither Democrat or Republican. I look at things from both sides and I look at things from all angles. You have maybe some point to make on that regard. However, I don't believe that our leaders are that crass and that un-American, really, to have done such a thing as you're proposing. I do not believe it.
Are you aware that the
Sure, it's not a debate. It's not a debate. I'm answering your question. And I say this, and I stated it very clearly. Oil is important to us and to the world. I do not believe it was the economic interests. The oil companies are going to make money whether we get oil from there or we don't get oil from there. There was a little such thing as a major thing, really, all right, Katrina, right? The threat of oil being cut off from this country alone in small quantities in terms of the overall usage of oil in this country, and yet gas prices shot up precipitously. Did they make untold fortune doing that? They don't have to have more oil. They can make money with less oil. So your theory does not hold up. Getting a hold of oil, more oil, does not increase their profits. Maybe shutting the oil down over there will increase their profits. Because, and in most times, it's not even the availability or non-availability, it's the thought that you might need it. It's the fear of. because Katrina did not really impact our oil in this country, or the economy to any great extent at all. But yet oil went up $10 a barrel.
Are you aware that the Vice President of the United States has a major interest and was president of a company that now dominates the extraction of oil and other minerals from the soil of Iraq? Are you aware that there are other motivations?
Sir, this is not a debate. I'm not going to enter a debate with you. We are well aware that the Bushes and the Cheneys have oil connections and friendships with the Saudi princes and now kings. They have all of that, okay? And so they can make money with more oil, they can make money with less oil. They know how to play the game, okay? So I do not buy into the fact that we're in war there for that reason. President Bush and Cheney have been surrounded by people who philosophically believe that what we did there, in my view, what we did there was for freedom purposes, and yet they were incorrect. They lied to do this, number one. And number two, the basic problem there, let me state this very clearly, was how they handled winning the war. They did not handle it properly. They let the people riot. They disbanded the police force. They disbanded the army. They did not take control. They did not flood them with soldiers to control them. They left all the ammunition depots free for people to take all the bombs that they're now getting killed with. That's where we made the error. We had no proper planning to win a war. That's the problem, okay? That was the problem. Let me just say something to this, okay? When we won the Second World War, we went into Germany and we changed Germany. We went into Japan, we changed Japan. We made them free countries. They were not free. They had no history of freedom to any extent at all, okay? And in some of these instances, we did things which were called undemocratic, but you and I didn't even know what we were doing there, okay? They're being revealed now, some of the things we did. But we wrote the Constitution in Japan. We reconstituted, we freed the women, okay? The fact is that we have done this before, but we did it right before. Now we did it wrong. And that's where we're living with the grief and the agony of this. And it may be 10, 20, 30 years or more that we might be there. You cannot change a whole people like we are trying to do now. We are doing it wrong, okay? We're doing it wrong. We did not win the hearts and minds of the Shiites, the Sunnis. We did win them of the Kurds, but not the Sunnis or the Shiites. The fact is, my experience, I served in Japan, in Korea and Japan, and I was in Japan in 1950s, and I was in Japan, and I had, in a year being in Japan, I had one incident where somebody actually yelled at us, a bunch of GIs, okay? And what happened when that person yelled at one of us? Gentleman in war uniform, war fatigues, with a cane, not with a cane, with crutches. He had one leg. And he obviously was a soldier in the Japanese army. And he started yelling Japanese and waving his crutch after us. A group of Japanese surrounded him, quieted him down, and walked him away from us. Okay? That's the difference of how we handled it in Japan versus how we handled it here. Here, not only would somebody yell at the GIs, but plant the bomb and they'd all cheer. Correct? We did it differently. And don't tell me the Japanese weren't cruel, because I've been in China. And I listened to the stories about the Chinese tell about them. I had an uncle who was a prisoner of war of the Japanese. And you can attest to the cruelty of the Japanese. So, and I knew how they were and how they are. And they were changed by the Americans. Changed, because we did it right. Not wrong, like the current administration. So I say it's not, you could say it was economic interest. We want Japan as an economic partner. I say, wonderful. If that's the case, and we made them a democracy for that, and they made them a democracy, wonderful. We should only have that in Iraq and in the Middle East. because it is in our economic and our philosophical interest to have people free in the world. Yes, sir.
Again, sir.
So with all due respect, sir, I think that your contention that we invaded Iraq for democracy is slightly naive. Now, in Pakistan, sir, we have a so-called ally. The president of Pakistan is our ally because we give him $3 billion a year. 80% of the people hate our guts, and if it wasn't for Musharraf, the president there, we would be very, very, we would have great enemies in Pakistan, and they have 6 atomic bombs, by the way. So
What is your point? What is your point?
the point is that you assumed before that we went into Iraq for democratic purpose. I think that's completely invalid.
What does that got to do with the Pakistanis?
Well, that's another example of a so-called non-democracy that is our basic allies.
Okay, let me address you.
Yes.
Are we allied with Egypt? That's a president, they vote for president?
Same story.
That's a dictatorship.
Yeah.
So, what is your point?
The point is that we're not looking for democracy.
Oh,
We're
yes,
looking-
we are. Oh,
What?
yes, we are. Oh, yes, we are. Oh, yes, we are.
Who are we to force our so-called democracy on a people who have never known democracy for years?
Because if you don't, you will bear the consequences of it, sir.
But why are we the universal policeman to do that?
Well, because we are the only, right now, super state.
You ever hear of
okay?
the UN, sir?
Yes, I've heard of the UN.
So why don't we go through the UN and force them to do it,
There's
and
no
not
such-
take it unilaterally?
Sir, the UN is through negotiation, and the UN is a very useful tool, but a very, let's say, it's shown, well, we're corrupt too, so everybody's corrupt. The point is that that has had a very unsteady course that they have gone. They've been anti-Israel, they've been anti-America, they've been anti-democracy for a long time. But they're shifting to some
It's the
extent.
best we have, sir.
That's correct. On that, you're correct, I agree.
Sir,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
how could you expect to bring democracy to a country, to a people that are not nationalistic, that are dominated by religious groups who hate each other? I think I've finished.
How can you bring democracy to, that hate each other? But the point is, ma'am, what is your alternative?
I don't know. But
You don't know. Well, tell me what it is. You shouldn't do this, but then what should we do?
Right?
We shouldn't have fought the Civil War here because, what the hell, I'm not black. Let them keep slaves in the South. I mean, why fight any war? I mean, there are just wars and unjust wars, okay? I can give you a whole list of what I call unjust wars, but I call some wars just. I call the Civil War a just war. I call this particular war a little bit of a both, so I agree with you. The war was a phony war. I agree with you. But I feel that some of the potential good of it is to make it more of a democratic Middle East. What else do you want? What do you want to do? What would you do now? Get out?
Yes. We got out of Vietnam. We have to get out of this one too.
Yeah.
We
okay.
do.
If
Because
we
we
get
don't
out, let me explain if we got out precipitously, okay? Turks and the Kurds hate each other. The Turks have been fighting against it. Let me finish, please. You raised the point, I'll answer it. The Turks and the Kurds have been fighting for years. There are vast oil wells up there, oil grounds. The Turks don't have oil, they have oil pipelines maybe, but they don't have oil. They have a religious reason, and they have an economic reason, and they have a cultural reason to be at odds with each other. The Kurds occupy Russia, Syria, Turkey, Iran, okay, and Iraq. The Kurds want their own country. Hey, look at everybody wants their own country today, right? All right, so they have been at war for a long time. As a matter of fact, the Kurds have been terrorists in Turkey for 20, 30 years. Yes? Okay. If we pull out, you think the Turks are going to do something? We protect the Kurds right now. Do you think that the Turks will say, hey, we can take over that? We don't like them, they don't like us, they've been terrorists to us for many years, right? Do you think Iran is going to sit by idly by, well, they're not doing it now either, don't you think they will come in somewhere on the south? There's a lot more oil wells there in Kuwait and in southern Iraq that the Shiites, our brothers over there, need our help. We will now take control of that. Don't you think that's going to happen? And by the way, the Saudis are right here. They're nothing. We can take them too, right? Don't you think there'll be a world war if we pulled out? I'm sad to say, yeah. The Middle East right now originally was, the, as you know, all know, since you're all educated people, was the cradle of civilization. It's where farming developed, it's where government developed, it's where cities developed, it's where language developed, it's where justice and legal means to solve problems was developed. In the Middle East, in Babylonia, in Iraq, okay? It is now potentially the end of the world if we do what people, some people would like to have. Pull out, pull out, pull out. You cannot. I don't agree with the war, but once you're there, if you think about it in terms of centuries, in terms of what is the good that can develop. I didn't say I advocated the war. I'm saying what the government, I think, underlying lied to get done. And that was to build a Middle East, an opportunity to get into the Middle East and expand freedom and democracy. And the president mentioned that in his State of the Union address and in his inauguration address. Freedom. He blasted some of our friends, including Egypt and Russia, in those speeches because they haven't gone far enough on freedom. So whether he was smart enough to see the underlying reason or whether that was the underlying reason, that is a valid underlying reason for it. Because if we do nothing, Israel would eventually have been wiped off the map, whether the Iranian president said so or not. Okay? That's number one. And number two, we would be under the control of the people who would eventually dominate there in that part of the world. They've done it before. Our friends, quote unquote, the Saudi Arabians, didn't they do it to us? We've defended them, and we've supported them, have we not? And yet they were party to this OPEC plan to cut off oil to this country, weren't they? And we suffered plenty. Do you think we'd suffer more now? I'm surely we would. So we need to bring freedom to the places that are so-called friends, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Egypt. All of those places need freedom. Otherwise, they are just hotbed for the growth of what now has become fundamentalist Islam. And you're all at risk. I hate to tell you this. You're all at risk. Okay? Have they proved it? They proved it in England, the United States, France, Spain, Philippines, Indonesia, Russia. Where do you want them to prove it? In your backyard? So freedom is damn well important to us in this country. And if it be that they lied, okay, I can't do anything about what they did. I can't do anything about the fact that they conducted the war badly. They're conducting the peace badly. But that's it. What would you do? We're in a problem situation. You look for the best possible solution. The best possible solution is having elections, which they've had, and trying to put a constitution into effect which guards the rights of the three parties, the Shiites, the Sunnis, and the Kurds. And they are trying to do that. We don't know if that's going to be successful, but we damn well have to try. So you can damn the Bush administration all you want, but to tell you the truth, it's not doing you any good. What's doing anybody any good is some positive movement that we can now make with intelligence to bring the parties together so they don't kill each other and have a civil war. But we cannot pull out. That's my opinion. Yes, ma'am.
Not just Iraq, but around the world. It distresses me greatly when I hear about torture that is being used by the United States government, where they set up places, torture, where they've taken people to countries that espouse torture. I mean, is this what our founding fathers wanted freedom for? Is this our kind of freedom? Or is this upsetting us? Is this turning us into a nation against what we were founded for and what we believe in?
Correct. I agree with what you're saying. That's the dilemma we have right now. This country is moving towards a sterner, harsher view of life, and it's our politicians, but it's also the rest of us. We talk about freedom. How many people here have flown in the last four years? Do you lock your luggage? If you lock your luggage, they'll break your lock, won't they? You permit that, right? Is that a freedom you just gave up? When you walk into a government building, you walk through a magnet which detects certain things. Well, you're a free citizen. You don't want to be affronted with that. Has anybody here ever taken off their shoes before they've taken a flight? How dare they tell you to take off your shoes? That's horrendous. But is that a freedom you just gave up? No? I mean, if 10 years ago somebody said, take off your shoes before you get on the plane, what would you do? You'd sue them, wouldn't you? No, you wouldn't. But I guarantee you American society would. You have given up freedom willingly. And there's a poll out today that said 53% of Americans would willingly give up more freedoms in order for security. So you're giving up freedom right now. Right now. The freedoms you have now are different. Now, let's say you want to go back 50 years. Well, if I was black, I wouldn't want to go back 50 years because I'd be giving up more freedom than I'm giving up now. It's a moving target what freedom is. Would you be happy in another free society where you have to live in a ghetto? Oh, no. No, we wouldn't want that. Or would you have to wear a star? Okay? There have been times in history where people, before the Holocaust, had to wear stars, yellow patches. The Code of Omar. Have any of you ever heard of the Code of Omar? The Code of Omar. You've heard of it? No. When the Muslims first took over Syria 1,000 years ago, they forced the Christians to not pray loudly, not to run for office, and not to ride a horse. And if they had an argument with a Muslim, they had to defer to the Muslim. That got translated to the Jews. And in every Muslim country, the Code of Omar was instituted. And in addition, in Egypt, many years ago, the Jews looked like the Egyptians. They're Semitic, right? They had to wear a yellow patch. Guess who copied that? Huh? Okay? So you're talking about something is that freedom? Okay? So what period do you want to go back to? When my grandparents in Boston wanted to move to, if they had kind of made good money and they were successful in business, they wanted to move to this particular neighborhood in Boston, and there were signs, no Jews apply. Okay? Okay? So tell me where freedom is. This was a free country, but if you were Jewish, you couldn't move to Manhasset. You couldn't move to Garden City. If you're any kind of different person, you can't move to condominiums or cooperatives in New York City today. So don't tell me about freedom. It's a different thing to everybody. If you're the right party and the right class and the right race and have the right money, hey, you're free. You could be black and go into a white club because you're maybe the Secretary of State. But ordinarily, a person wouldn't be. It's the common man that we're talking about when we're talking freedom. And that's what the fight is about. And that's what the big fight in this country, somebody here said before, what's happening in this country about the torture. That is a problem. What about other things, such as Roe v. Wade? Is that a freedom issue? You're damn well it's freedom for women, isn't it? That's a big battle. You'll be reading about it more and more, right? When Alito gets going and being questioned by the Senate. What about the morning after pill? Who's aware of the morning after pill? Are you aware of what that is? It's a legally FDA-approved pill to prevent pregnancy. And the pharmacists, most 50% of the pharmacists in this country will not prescribe it. They should lose their licenses because the women that by mistake or by accident somehow feel they might get pregnant, it's not an abortion, it's a prevention. And 50% of the pharmacists in this country will not prescribe it. Is that freedom for the women or freedom for the pharmacist to do what he wants? He's got a license that says he will